Thief Town is a local multiplayer stealth action game where you and the other players that are hanging around at your house, not online, are all on the screen at the same time. Everybody has identical avatars, and your job is to kill all of the other characters on screen, be they NPCs or other players, by stabbing them when nobody's looking. It's got a really, really interesting art style, which we'll get to in just a second. But this is my first impressions of Thief Town. So Thief Town is a local multiplayer stealth action game. Everybody in the game looks exactly the same, and your job is to stab anybody else that's on screen. You get 1 point for stabbing NPCs. You get 3 points for stabbing other players. Basically, what you want to do is you want to be able to hide your character and blend in with the crowd. On the screen, there will be, of course, all of the other players, as well as a bunch of NPCs, and the NPCs will constantly be moving around. You want to try and move like the other NPCs so that nobody knows that you're another player. You can't tell who's a player and who's not until you go to stab someone. Now, when you go to stab someone, you want to try and make sure that nobody's paying attention to you. You want to get a stab in and then blend in with everybody else. So a quick mistake that I feel like we were making when we were playing is we would stab and then stab somebody else and then stab somebody else very, very quickly in order to rack up as many kills as we could. You get 1 point for stabbing NPCs and 3 points for stabbing other players. So step 1, blend in. Step 2, stab, then blend in again. And you want to keep an eye on the timer so that when the timer runs out, you have more kills than everybody else. That's the goal of the game. Sometimes they'll mix things up and make everybody invisible. And then when lightning strikes, everybody is visible for a moment and then they go invisible again, which very much reminded me of Combat, which is perfect because this game has such an Atari aesthetic, and Combat is one of those games that is played, or that was played on the Atari 2600, at least our Atari 2600 at my house. We played that game a lot. There are 3 modes of games that you can play in Thief Town. The first one is called Thief Town. And then there's Spy Town, which is essentially Thief Town, but with items that you can use once. Then there's Drunk Town, which is really weird. One of the players becomes the sheriff and gets a gun. And then their job is to shoot all of the drunken players before they run out of bullets. Now, you don't know which characters are the players and which are NPCs, so you need to watch and see how everybody reacts. And the players have no knives, so you can't tell who's who just by waiting for them to stab somebody. It's a really, really weird game. The presentation overall is extremely well done. The graphics and sound are reminiscent of the Atari 2600. It's obvious that that's what they're going for. In fact, in the video on Nintendo's site, it shows one of the players using an Atari 2600 controller. Of course, you can't use an Atari 2600 controller, but it's obvious that that's what they're going for. And they did a very, very good job. Especially if you're into super retro stuff like I am, this game is going to appeal to you. They have this film reel aesthetic going on. And when my wife and I sat down to play this game, because you cannot play this single player, I needed my wife to help me try this out and see what the game was like. She sat down and she saw the graphics and she said instantaneously, she was like, "Oh, I want to like this game. This game looks really, really cool." The downside to the game is that they never, ever explain how to play. They never explain how to play. Just putting in, like trying to name your character is very confusing. We were using single Joy-Cons each. So like I have the left Joy-Con, she has the right Joy-Con, and you have to name your character and you go down to this person on the bottom of the screen to name your character. We couldn't figure out how to do it. So we ended up naming, like I was XXXX and she was XXXY. And we were like, I don't understand what's going on here, because the buttons didn't correspond to the buttons on the Joy-Con, because we don't have ABXY on a single Joy-Con if you're using the left Joy-Con. So it was very, very confusing. They don't explain how to play the game. They just start, and 90% of the time, my wife and I were constantly asking each other, what the hell is going on here? Like, did you just win? Did I just win? Who won? How is it working? We could not figure it out for quite a long time. That being said, I think once you figure it out, it's a fun, goofy party game. I just wish that there was some kind of tutorial in order to guide us through the step-by-step of how to play. If it had a tutorial, then I would say that this is very interesting and a lot of people are going to have a lot of fun with it. However, it's $8, and I think the $8, I've said this before, I don't like saying that a game is worth X dollars. I think $8 for this game is too much. It's too much for me. I would not pay $8 for this. I would maybe pay $5, and honestly, I would probably wait for it to go on sale, and at $3, it's an insta-buy. But for $8, I feel like there's a lot better experiences that you can pick up on the Nintendo Switch. That being said, it's definitely something where if you sat down with people and everybody understood how to play, and you were playing the way that the game is intended, where it's not stab, 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 it's blend in, stab when you think you've got a good opportunity, blend in again, stab when you think you've got a good opportunity. That would really, really work well. Getting everybody to slow down and do that is kind of tough, especially when there's no tutorial. If there's a tutorial that explains that, then it makes much more sense. But my wife and I were very confused and a little frustrated when we first started playing this game. So I guess at the end of the day, Thief Town is a game that has an awesome presentation if you like super retro, and has a really cool game style if you can figure out how to play. But at the end of the day, I think that it's priced just a little bit too high. If you didn't know, I've got a podcast called Nintendo Switchcraft. You can check it out every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday, wherever podcasts are downloaded. Or you can also just subscribe, and it'll be posted right here on YouTube as well. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.